Hello and a very warm welcome back to AFC Newsday. It's brilliant to have you here. What are we? We're on Wednesday evening. We're back. We can only apologise really for not being back sooner. It's been a bit of a crazy end to the season, and we've only just really got the opportunity to kind of break it all down. I'm joined as ever by Matt. Matt, a very warm welcome. Kind of you to join us. I see you were playing a charity game yesterday. How did that go for you?
Hello, yeah. It was interesting because I can't say I particularly play football, and my shin is still pretty sore. Um,
Where did you
so
play? What position? What position did you play?
as a centre back, it's five-a-side, so not a set centre back really. Um, but no, it was really good fun and a great cause for Ray of Sunshine. So yeah, really good, and hopefully it goes towards, or amazing, it goes towards people in need. And yeah, no, it was really cool be to be involved with a lot of other really cool people. So yeah, how are you?
Yeah, mate, I'm all well, thank you. It's been a bit of a crazy end to the season of work, and I'm sure it's been busy for you with university. We've got a star-studded panel joining us today. I'm delighted to also welcome Yem to the stage. Yem, great to have you there as well. We've got to talk about it. You finally met Matt. You finally met Matt.
I did, and I'm going to come at you first, Dan, because you gave it the
Okay,
big thing. He's like 6'4" and he's
he
massive.
is massive.
I met him, and I was like, "Hold on, he's not that big." He's like, "It's a pretty standard height," and I don't. No, but it
Standard
was really
height.
nice. It was. It's. I wasn't like craning my neck like that. I thought I was going to be looking
No,
like this, but
but
no.
you're
It was really nice. It was nice to meet. I mean, obviously, the last day of the season, it was a nice day, summer's day. It's just unfortunate that the on-field action didn't go our way in terms of the overall league, but it was a good day. Good, always good to meet you guys as usual. See friends. Got a cheeky Nando's beforehand. That's always a good start, and I know you guys did as well.
so you're telling us that you went to Nando's,
But we
but
went to a
we
different
did.
Nando's.
Oh,
We
you
went
went
to
to
the other.
different Nando's.
We went to the other Nando's.
Damn.
Arsenal's so big; they got two Nando's nearby. That's how
Well,
big Arsenal rolls.
where's the other one located? Oh,
It's
we went to
Finsbury
Holloway
Park,
Road.
Finsbury
Finsbury Park.
Park.
Got you.
So,
Got
so
you.
we
Cool.
headed over there with a few friends.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we will get into it. The Nando's order, everything in detail. We'll break it down to the chip. We'll break it all down today. We've got to talk about it at the end of the season. We'll talk about that final game, the final day of the season. We'll talk about the season as a whole for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. It's been an incredible season for Arsenal in general. And let's look forward. We can't do that too much because a lot of time has passed since the season ended. So it gives us the opportunity to look forward to the transfer window. Gives us the opportunity to talk about some of the recent kind of topics that have been brought up in the Premier League. Manchester City, absolutely at the forefront of that. So we'll get right into it. I'm also delighted to welcome Karis to the stream as well. Karis, you've been on before, but not with myself, but with Matt. But it's great to have you on here. Karis, how are you? Great to have you.
I'm doing great. It's been a while since I've come on, but I'm happy to be back now. And yeah, nice to meet you, Yamin, Matt, all of you. Yeah, let's get ready for the show.
100%, man. Great to have you here. And you do like some compilations, you're like video editor. Tell the people kind of what you do. And you're a big Arsenal fan yourself as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm as you just said it yourself. I started in 2020 as a hobby doing editing, and I never knew that it would become something that would become almost professional. That I'd be working with footballers. Like recently, I worked with the enemy. I worked with James Madison. But you got to get your money somehow, and it was a good experience. And yeah, I'm hoping for many more opportunities. So if anybody knows anyone, just hit me up. But yeah, hopefully some Arsenal footballers will be in the bag soon. That'd be lovely, man.
Nice, man. Yeah, I know you say the enemy and stuff, but you shouldn't understate, how much of an achievement it is to work with the Premier League footballer. So, congratulations with that. And we look forward to seeing more of your content. Boys, we need to talk about that final game of the season. Everton at home, Arsenal eventually winning 2-1 at the Emirates. Did any of you ever believe, like really and truly, that something could happen on that final day? I mean, I'll leave it open to if anyone did. Did anyone truly believe that Man City might drop points on that final day?
No, I'll say
No.
it straight up.
No.
I can tell you why I didn't believe that, because of when obviously all the matches happened like early afternoon, around about 3 o'clock ish, and basically anyone that follows me on Twitter knows that I'm very big on my faith and stuff. I was coming from church, and usually if there's an afternoon game after church, I'll be like, I'm gonna rush back home so I can watch this game. I decided now I'm gonna go to the park with my friends, just go and just chill, relax, let's have a good time. So I didn't watch a single minute of Arsenal Everton because I didn't really expect much, and I thought, yeah, City have got this in the bag, which they did in the end.
Yeah, no, it was a bit disheartening. I mean, to kind of give some context to the people, myself and Matt and a few others actually managed to get 4 seats in the red ballot, which was the first time this season, which was a bit mental. So we were sat there. We ran down and saw Yem before the game, and I jokingly said to Yem, "Oh." After we'd seen him down there, I was like, "Oh, I'll see you on the pitch here after full time." It didn't really work out in the end.
Would you have done it? Would you have done it?
Oh, look, if everyone else ran on the pitch, 100%. But I feel like
we would wait for you first. You know, we'd let you go on first, then do it. You know, if the police arrest you first, they have a target. Then afterwards,
no, I shouldn't admit that. I would have stayed in my seat. Yeah, no, it was it was an interesting end of season game, but there was just one moment when, because in the game in the stadium, there's no signal, there's no ability to check what the score is. Everyone's kind of constantly refreshing Google, but only certain people have actually got signal. And then I was looking around me, and then there's a bloke a few rows in front of me that had an earpiece in. He was listening to the Man City game, and there was this one moment when everyone went mental, and everyone thought it was 2-2 at the Etihad, and everyone went crazy. And in that moment, when you're sat there, there's no reason for you to not believe that, Manchester City are drawing at the Etihad, and you go, oh my goodness, And I genuinely never heard a noise like it at the Emirates. There was
hasn't that happened to like Liverpool previous season, if I remember correctly?
Yeah,
yeah,
it did. Yeah, and
the thing is,
it was. Go on, yeah.
The thing is that West Ham had 2 goals disallowed. It was a mad afternoon, not for us in terms of our game. Our game was pretty much, it was, majority it was pretty dull, and then obviously we scored, game over. But everyone was focused on the Man City game because it was the what if. But it was mad, everyone, once they scored the first goal, everyone thought that's it, game over, because we've seen it before. Done and done.
When did you
then
get?
It went to 1-1.
Yeah, when did you get news, Jem, that of the first goal for Manchester City? Did you have? When did you first get an inkling as to what the score was
in the North
at
Bank?
The Etihad?
In the North Bank, again, terrible signal, so I couldn't check anything. And then someone said it's 1-1, it's 1-1, and then obviously it starts to filter down. Everyone buzzing around you. You go what? Because you don't believe it, and then you want to go and check your phone, and you can't because there's no signal, so you're getting annoyed.
Yeah.
You wait, and you're waiting for someone else to verify it. So you're like, me and FK sit together. I was like, is it 1-1? Is it 1-1? Can you verify? And it was, and everyone went nuts, obviously. Then in the second, obviously when it was, then they scored again, obviously City, and then you start going, that's it, job done. It's pretty much over. Then there was the
3-1, definitely.
Yeah, but when you said, as you said, someone said 2-2, and it went absolutely bonkers because 2-2 would have been very, very interesting. Again, look, the facts are the facts, and we all knew this. I think every Arsenal fan knew this going in, and no matter how much you believe, City are what they are. They are a machine. The last couple of games since the last quarter of the season, they have been relentless. They've smelt the title, and they've executed it perfectly. But there was always hope. I think it's human nature. If you don't have that inkling of belief, then why are you even watching the game? We all want to believe, and we all do it in a different way, don't we? We either, as Carrie said, turn it all off and hope that something happens, because if it does, then you'll go absolutely nuts later on, or you're there going, please, 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 something happen. And that's what we live for. That's the game. That's the emotion. That's the roller coaster. That's why I'm here for it. I don't know about you guys, but I love it. Whatever happens, it was. I can't even fault this season for us. It's been an amazing experience.
In all honesty, I would say that I had hope until Son missed his chance. When he missed that chance, for me, it was over.
Yes,
Like, for
missed.
me, like,
Missed it. Missed it.
missed it exactly. The good thing is that, and I think the very underrated thing as well, is that the way Mikel Arteta was talking in press conferences, he was pretty much, inspiring all the players to like keep talking and be like believe that we could win this title. Even Kai Havertz was coming out saying, "Oh, I'm going to be the biggest Tottenham supporter in jest." So you see what I'm saying? The manager's transmitting to the players that look, there's still a job to do. There's still a chance that we can win this title. If he was talking and being like, we haven't got a shot at this, then and we even saw like tweets about how the parade route will be going this way and that way. So I think even the fans are starting to well up and starting to believe that something could happen. Which obviously, of course, you have to plan the parade routes like beforehand, anyways, because someone's just trying to take the mick out of us for that. But that's just standard procedure. But we just got to keep having this hope because it's there.
Yeah, and to be honest, like about what was it after that Aston Villa defeat, always in my mind I was like, Manchester City going to win the title now. It's going to happen, and I was adamant, and like I just kept being adamant all the way through. But even when I walked, when I scanned my ticket to go on the turnstile, I was like, what if? And like it just couldn't escape my mind. Like you say, like that's the reason you're there. Apologies if you can hear my dogs barking. Whilst my dogs decide to announce themselves to the stream, Matt, I will ask you for your opinion on the final day of the season. It was, still a decent win, and there were a few positives to take from it when you think that Jurrien Timber came back, got a brilliant reception. And to be honest, it's nice that by the time he came on, I think everyone had gone, it's 3-1 at the Etihad, it's not happening, but let's appreciate Jurrien Timber coming back. And it was great to see him on the pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously there'd been rumours beforehand of him coming back sooner, but ultimately with an ACL injury, there's no point risking it. And for me, even in January, I kind of wanted us to get a fullback if it was possible, because I didn't want us to be in a position where we had to force Jurrien back or anything like that. And we've seen with us, with long-term injuries, there's no risks taken. Saliba, there were so many murmurs that he'll play X, Y, Z, and he didn't play a single minute left of the season. Timber was the exact same. And ultimately, he didn't play another minute until the final day and looked very, very sharp.
Wish you had Timber for Porto, man. Long day. Imagine.
Brilliant. But yeah, no, there was rumours beforehand that he'd be coming back sooner, but as I say, with an ACL, it's a dodgy game, predicting that a player is going to come back sooner or anything like that. But either way, it was brilliant to have Timber back on that final day, not rush back either. I slightly laughed when he just kicked someone. I was like, you've just come on the pitch, chill.
He went through the back of someone as well, and I was like, is he going to get sent off here on his first game back?
I mean, at least it shows that he's comfortable now, and he's not really like
No, but do you know what worried me even more? You know when he came through the back of that person, he lost his shoe in the middle of it.
Yeah,
and then you were like, "Oh, please don't do that. Don't start." And he couldn't help it, but he still ran. Because he was tracking. Yeah. He ran up the pitch without the boot. He was holding the boot, and I was like, "Dude, you just came back from an ACL. Now you're going to damage your foot again because you can't let it go." It was crazy. But even when he came through the back of it, it was clean. It was pretty clean. I mean, he didn't. He still got the ball. It shows what we missed, and it is such a shame. His ACL really not set a tone, but it was just a sad start to the season for us. And it's the what could have been, because Zinchenko was off form. Kiwior did well. I thought, there was the plus point. Obviously Kiwior came in, did well, but Jurrien Timber. I think everyone, and I think this is the football world over, knows what Jurrien Timber is. They rate him highly for a reason, because there is something about him. We can all feel it, in the preseason, start of the season, the Nottingham Forest game, even that game, even the game at the end. He's come back from an ACL and he still looked pretty decent to me.
Well, I mean, everyone saw his strike right in the under 23s game when he absolutely rocketed it into the top corner. I'm really excited to see Jurrien Timber back next season. Are any of you struggling with missing football I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's because obviously it's involved in my work, but I'm quite enjoying the break at the moment. But any of you guys kind of struggling with it or wanting the season to start again ASAP?
I don't mind.
No?
I wouldn't say like I'm struggling without it. I think everyone has a welcome break here because everyone knows the second the Euro starts, you've got 3 games
Yeah.
back to wall football.
Yeah.
So it's like obviously we had the Champions League final on the weekend. We had the Conference League final, the famous Conference League final on last Wednesday. We've had a few international football games thrown in here and there. England playing Bosnia the other day, and we'll have one more game
Riveting.
on Friday. Oh, it was
What
honestly,
a Southgate masterclass in
Yeah.
how really to make it so dull in every game. Honestly, I think the word dross doesn't even cover how dull it was. It was
Every time I watch England play, I'm just like, why did I even put myself through that?
I don't watch
Um,
England friendlies for a reason, honestly.
No.
You're just gonna get.
but I'm even worried. I'm genuinely worried with the talent pool that we've got. We should be absolutely, battering teams. And I know Bosnia were men behind the ball, fair enough, but the substitutions were so defensive and so dull. And I get the feeling that he's, come the Euros against a bigger team, I still see the same pattern occurring.
In all
But you can't-
honesty, like in terms of missing football, is like, yeah, I'm not sure if I think like we need this break because when the Euros come and you see everybody talking about England and what they should do for balance and stuff like that, then you'll feel like, yeah, we needed this break. Days before, people were talking about if Mikel Arteta was a good player or not. So no matter what part of the season we're in, like we're never
honestly,
going to
where's
have
that come
good
from? Like,
conversations on Twitter or anywhere else for that matter.
Because people need the it's the distraction, isn't it? Because obviously
Yeah.
we talk about Arsenal pretty much, 24/7 almost because of social media, etc. And it is nice just to down tools for a little bit. I'm sure the players have it as well. Look, we need a break. I just want to switch off, etc. And it's just, we'll get, again, we'll be back for it when the preseason starts and everything. That's just how we are. But it is nice. And I've got enough distractions. I've got a family, so I've got enough distractions to.
I think work from home has done a lot of damage, honestly. Yeah.
I can't talk. I've worked from home for years, so it's
No, okay, me too. To be fair, but it's like it's done a lot of damage. That people have more time to tweet nonsense, basically.
I really don't. I get no.
to be honest as well, to be honest with you all, I think this is my least favorite time of the season online as well. Just when you get a lot of, I feel for a lot of people as well because a lot of publications have to publish reports and have to, produce a number of articles, but there's just not really any kind of news. Players are on holiday. There's not really any kind of solid, transfer links, and it's just people saying like that clubs are interested in people, and it's just stuff like that.
Fabrizio finds a way. He tweets like 20 different ways to announce Kylian Mbappe in a day. Somehow he manages to do it. We got to do that. Dan, you got to stretch this out.
Well, I mean, no disrespect to him, but he might have been muted. Right, let's talk about this season. The Premier League season. I want to go through it, and whilst I just talk through a few bits of it, I want you all to come up in your minds with a high point and a low point of the Premier League season for Arsenal, please. That might be from a personal experience of you being there, or it just might be from from you watching from afar. That might have been a high point and a low point for you. For me personally, I think the Manchester City game at the Emirates was incredible. That was probably my high point, being there. I was in the North Bank, with a few good friends, and when Martinelli scored that goal that went in, it was absolute pandemonium in the North Bank, kind of lower section. And it was that moment that it felt like, look, Arsenal have finally beat Manchester City in a game. I know they beat them in the Community Shield previously, but it was like, this is kind of the turning point after so many times when Manchester City had come to the Emirates. Arsenal had managed to beat them, and it was right at the death, and the atmosphere was incredible on that game. So I'd probably say that was my high point. The low point, it's tough. I mean, that Villa game right at the end at home kind of just felt like Arsenal almost, you could feel the title slipping through the fingers, and it was a low point for me. I think both Villa games were, to be honest, and there was a few games when just Arsenal weren't on it, and that ultimately is what costs them, not necessarily not being able to beat Manchester City away at the Etihad as well. But it was ultimately some of these games at the Emirates earlier on in the season, and a few away trips as well that cost them the title. But for me personally, Manchester City at home was the high point. Aston Villa at the end of towards the end of the run-in at the Emirates when Ollie Watkins scored that goal and they won 2-0 in the end. That was the low point for me. Arsenal missed out on the title by just 2 points in the end. The goal difference was equal on 62 goals, 62 goal difference each. Arsenal drew 5, lost 5, and won 28, a record breaking amount of wins, which is just, it speaks volumes of how great a season it was for Arsenal that they managed to. The previous record was 26, I believe. So to go 2 more than they'd done before was just incredible for Arsenal. A record-breaking season, but they still couldn't win the Premier League. Manchester City winning the same amount of games, but drawing 7 and only losing 3. What a season. It's been relentless. Matt, I'll come to you. High point, low point in the season. Just talk us through some of the moments that kind of summed it up for you.
I think for me, the high point and low point are not easy because I think the City game, the home game, is right up there. But I think the high points for me, one of them's a bit of a funny high point. But it's the two
meeting Yem. It's got to be meeting Yem, right?
That's that's.
Oh, he was about to say. He was about to say it. Let the man speak.
Yeah. No. Sorry. My bad. Sorry, Matt. Carry on.
Yeah. So meeting Yem at the end. No. Absolutely. But ironically, the 2 high points for me were both Merseyside clubs, and the low point is that Fulham game. The Merseyside clubs, in terms of us beating Liverpool 3-1 at Anfield. At the Emirates, I thought that was just the atmosphere that day, the feeling I had, the excitement, playing a Liverpool side who had done brilliantly, to be honest. They had a few players out that day, which is unfortunate, but they were a top side. And for us to, completely dominate them, to be honest, in that game, and that Trossard goal, that goal to seal the win was just phenomenal. And the atmosphere, as I say, that day was just superb. And the other Merseyside club, Everton, winning at Goodison Park. I know it's a bit of a weird one, but I think for me, because
first away day, right?
Yeah, this season, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it first? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that was just amazing because, as you say, I managed to get a ticket for that one, so that was really good. And I know so many Arsenal fans who have had 10 to 15 trips of going to Merseyside and never seen us win there. And for us to go to Merseyside and actually win a game of football, keep a clean sheet, go to Goodison Park, a very tough ground, a complete bogey ground, and win there, I thought was it's testament to how the side just finds an area they struggle in and finds a way to overcome it. Every season, we've almost ticked off the hoodoo grounds. Last season you had Tottenham. Last season you had Liverpool at home. Even you had
Southampton coming back next season.
A bunch of other
St Mary's coming back next season.
At least Ramsdale's not going to be starting that one, so we're safe.
Yeah.
that pigeon. But yeah, those we've had then a few this season, like Merseyside, obviously the Champions League being a big one back for us for the first time in 7 years. And as you mentioned, of course, Southampton, where I believe you were at that game too, Dan. Them managing to beat Leeds 1-0 to come back to the Premier League. I don't think it brings joy among Arsenal fans because it's just a ground which shouldn't be a struggle point, but is. But as I say, we find the issues, we find the grounds we struggle at, and we find a way to overcome them. So those are my high points. If the Munich result was a bit better, that would definitely be up there as well, because that home game was, special to see us back under the lights against a team like Bayern Munich. That Saka goal, that was pretty special. And the away game being there, my first ever European away, will be memorable always. But obviously, we got knocked out, so I can't really have that as a high point. And then the low point, I think Villa's a fair one more because it comes simultaneously after we lost to Bayern Munich. And I think there was a lot of discourse on the timeline that was going to be the time we just completely folded and that was it. because our fixtures for the rest of the season, let's not forget, we had a Wolves away, we had a Bournemouth at home, we had Spurs away, we had United away, we had a lot of
Tottenham
really
away.
difficult, Tottenham away, a lot of really difficult fixtures where if you're in a bad run of form or if you hit a bit of a slump, that's the time where you're going to get hit like an absolute brick wall with these fixtures. And instead of folding or capitulating, like of course we did see last season, whatever reasoning, we didn't do it this season. We won every single game, and I'm very proud of the team for that. And of course, it wasn't enough to win the league, but that's the league we're in. City always just find a way to match you and find that way to go one higher. So for me, my low point was that Fulham away game. I think obviously that week with West Ham and Fulham was just completely deflating. But I think the way the Fulham game went, just being almost one of the few times I've watched Arsenal and felt we just weren't really in the game. We went 1-0 up early on. We could have gone 2-0 up with a Martinelli chance, but that, we had so few chances in the game. It felt like it was a matter of time before they'd score. And even in games where we, so to speak, don't have so much of the ball, we felt like, we're always such a defensive unit. And that game, I didn't feel we were. I thought we conceded some poor goals. I felt we couldn't control the game. I didn't think we ever really were in the game overly. And, it got to a point where it was like the 94th minute, I believe it was New Year's Eve. And I was just like, I'm going straight out. Like, I'm not, just letting this ruin my New Year's Eve. And I never feel like that about Arsenal. It's more just like a gutting, we've lost this game, like it's frustrating. And obviously, as the margins have got tighter and tighter, you get even more, it's even more important every time we drop points. But nonetheless, that was the one day where I really just felt so deflated and was just sick of it almost, just like, get me out. Like, I don't want to watch this for now. And that was a tough period, and I'd be intrigued to hear your guys as well.
There was definitely like a slump around the New Year time. That the Liverpool game in the League Cup or the FA Cup at the Emirates?
Yeah, I was gonna, if I can add something as well.
Go for it, Karras. Go for it.
Especially if we're talking in terms of high and low points. Matt basically took the words out of my mouth. That the low points for me, I wouldn't say there's a low points like singularly, is like low points. It was that run between like December and New Year's where a lot of players like Declan Rice and stuff were saying like, 1 or 2 games won't define us or this and that. But it was that West Ham. I think the West Ham game was like Mavropanos scored a header, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then
2-0 at the Emirates. Yeah.
2-0, awful game. Then the Fulham game is like we had Havertz playing in midfield, which I didn't really think benefited us much. And our build-up just overall, I think the whole team, I'm not talking about just Havertz to be fair, the whole team was really poor and just we're not at the races. And then we get knocked out live on BBC by Liverpool. So, especially because a lot of people levy a lot of criticism at Arteta for, you need to win more than just that FA Cup in 1920. So it was quite gutting to leave the FA Cup, especially to Liverpool as well. So it's like we were on a run of 3 games about winning. So that was a really, really low point. But in terms of a high point, I'd probably say the Chelsea game that was near the end of the season. Winning 5-0, it just felt like everyone was buzzing. We just saw a whole variety of goals, like Ben White scoring. He meant to cross it, but it went in. And he
made a shot, Karras. It was a very clear and obvious. He meant it. It was a shot, 100%.
He was looking at the other guys like, I don't know.
Yeah,
he got a brace that day, didn't he?
No, he got a brace.
He got a couple, didn't he? Yeah.
And Havertz getting 2 against his former club was just lovely in the way he took them.
Yeah, him and Havertz both getting braces. Everyone was just on fire for that game, and Chelsea looked like they were just stuck in the mud. So it was beautiful to see the way all their fans were getting so mad on social media and stuff, saying all their fallacies about Havertz and what he is and what he isn't and stuff. So, well, yeah, unfortunately, looking back on the season, I just feel like that little run that we had in December is those fine margins. I think that is actually what killed our season, and it wasn't really Aston Villa.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a few, 100%. There's a few that little kind of. I feel like there's a few points. There's a moment at the start of the season when we had that kind of Thomas Partey right back experiment thing, which I wasn't a massive fan of. And there's a few games around then. Was it Fulham at the Emirates, I believe?
Oh,
That game,
Paulinho
that game.
got like a late goal.
Yeah, and there was, I feel like there's a
Paulinho
few.
should have been off to Bayern as well, which just made it
Yeah.
even funnier.
And then he did the maddest knee slide with passion I've ever seen. I was like, fair enough. Fair.
Yeah, there's a few moments, but it just shows that when you're in a title race with this City side, you've just pretty much got to be perfect when it comes down to it. Just before we come to you, I just wanted to say as well that if there was one moment when I feel like the season peaked in some ways, I feel like when Arsenal went 1-0 up against Bayern Munich at the Emirates, I felt that moment, when Saka scores that goal against Neuer, and I was right behind as well. I think that was one of the best atmospheres I've heard at the Emirates, and one of the first times, the Ale 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 chant. Everyone, I properly saw it when like the whole stadium was like waving the scarves around, and just as a spectacle to watch. Like it was like incredible to see on the day, and that when Saka puts Arsenal 1-0 up, I was just like, oh my word, like this is incredible. And then obviously the game was, for the neutral, a really good watch, and Arsenal came back 2-2 in the end. Trossard with that goal. But just to have these Champions League nights back at the Emirates again is huge, and the low point could also potentially be for me having to leave before the penalty shootout in the Porto game, because that was just that was honestly I don't know if I'll get over that in a while. But yeah, but on that note, can we please come to you for your let's go low point then high point. Let's end on a positive.
So the low point I think we've all talked about is it's coincides with that run. For me personally, the one where I was in disbelief was the Fulham game at the Emirates. It was fairly towards the start of the season. Fulham, although they've been a decent team this season, you'd still expect to beat them, and it was just I felt during the game we weren't there. We were sloppy, we were making mistakes, and we conceded 2 goals, which we, if you look at the totality of the season, you'd say we would never have let those in. And it was just an un-Arsenal-like performance. It's kind of like the Fulham away game. Those 2 games really were unusual. I mean, we could also call the West Ham, as we've all talked about, the West Ham game. Those 3 games are really unusual, very un-Arsenal-like in terms of how we performed the whole season. But that Fulham game at the Emirates really did throw me for a loop, because I was in disbelief. When they scored, I thought, okay, we've edged this. We weren't playing well anyway, as Dan alluded to. We had been playing this right-back system, Havertz in midfield, and we weren't scoring goals. It was the experimentation phase. But Fulham, I was fully expecting we would win. And when we were 2-1 up, I thought, that's it. Job done. Close up and just get the 3 points. And it felt like we were back to the days of not last season, but the season before that, where we conceded sloppily. And it really did bug me for a couple of days, because I couldn't get it out of my head. And I was sat up a tier this time. Usually I sit back lower. But I could see everything, and I could see the goal go in. I was absolutely fuming when it went in. And it is poetic that it was. I think it's Aaron Ramsdale's last Premier League performance before Brentford away, wasn't it? I think that was his last game.
Brentford at home, I think.
Brentford at home, yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
But that, I think that signaled the death knell of him for certain. I think Raya was always going to come in, but in that game, it just showed he was so, he's a good keeper, but those mistakes were common for him, and again, it was just disappointing. In terms of my high point, I'm going to go for an interesting. I'm going for actually Declan Rice's goal against Man United, because it's Man United. We in any season, despite where Man United are, we are still massive rivals with them. It's one of those things that we hate each other. They wanted to beat us. They still wanted to beat us. They weren't saying, "Oh, we should lay down for Arsenal because City are going to win the title, so we need to help them." No, they wanted to beat us. Arsenal, Man United, they are rivals, and you want to beat them.
And they were making predictions as well that they'll finish ahead of us this season, because they're first.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the big talk. It's the big talk. Oh, I don't know if you've watched the Stretford Panic. There was a season predictor. They predicted Arsenal 8th.
Oh, I know. I saw that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw that.
and then United like 3rd and all that. And I just sat there going, yeah, right. And then
Can I just add, Arsenal actually ended up finishing 29 points above Manchester United.
I think
29.
the thing is that I'm not going to give it the big to Man United fans because they've already had enough pain. I think what they're going, no, but this is what we went through for 4 years.
Is it though, It's worse in my opinion. In my opinion, it's worse. I don't think it ever got. It didn't stretch this long.
No, but we were bottom of the table at one point. Don't forget that. So we've had it bad. I think
it's context really. I think it's context really. So with just quickly, I think with us when we were really struggling, it was very much context. We didn't have a number 10 and we were getting quite unlucky. I remember we'd lead certain games or do well in certain games and then just get stupid red cards. And, if the second you start getting red cards, you've noticed these last 2 seasons, we've had one red card? You get regular red cards.
Did we have any this season?
Tomiyasu against Crystal Palace.
That was
early on.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing, actually, considering that we had the worst record for a couple of years. I mean...
Yeah. That's it really. Like that's the difference maker. And just to quickly say, you compare that to United where they've spent so much money. We didn't spend too much money. Not that you need to even compare these situations because they're so different. But nonetheless, we had very little resource wise. But Arteta built the team from a few superstars who were completely aging, a few top youth players, which we of course identified towards the end of things. Or that famous game against Chelsea in December. But it was not a game that, it was not a time where it was Arsenal spending hundreds of million. And I think what makes it even worse for United, context-wise, is they finished 8th place, but I'm pretty sure they should have finished 13th or 14th. Like, you watch pretty much any game this season from United and you think you're in disbelief how many chances they concede.
But the thing is, Matt, they won the cup and they're giving it. They can't help themselves, can they? This is the problem. It's a slight delusion about, we're United and we should be. But even the commentators, who we're talking about. When we talk about commentators, etc., they still love to give it. And the fact is that whenever you beat United, it is always nice. And the fact is, for me, my special moment is the Declan Rice goal because Declan Rice, big summer signing, big expectation on him. Started to deliver, but that goal in the big game at the big time is when you want the £100 million man to step up, and he did that. And that's how you introduce yourself to the Arsenal fans. You do it in the big game again, at the right moment. It was kind of poetic. It's kind of like that movie moment where, it's at the right moment, last few minutes of the game. I know Jesus scored after that, but it was that moment for me.
Garnacho had just scored as well a few minutes before. Let's not forget.
In Ten Hag's head, is still scoring. It wasn't offside. Honestly, the man. But that's another facet to it. Ten Hag's obsession with us for some reason. Why don't you focus on your own lane, and then when you're in our lane, you can talk about us, but you weren't even in our rear view mirror. You're way down. You're way down. So the fact is that for me, it was that moment because I just thought, the atmosphere. I view it as the moments. I watch football on TV and all that, but I love going to the stadium. I think we all do. We all go enjoy. It's a different feeling going to the stadium. I can't explain it. For someone who, I'm so very blessed, and I think if we're lucky enough to go, it is an amazing experience, and I'm lucky enough to have a season ticket, and I look forward to going because it's so different. But those kind of games, you talk, Dan, you talked about the Bayern Munich game, the atmosphere, just the way things are presented in the bigger games, it just stays within your mind. And that goal for me stays in my mind because the atmosphere was absolutely mental at the end because, again, 1-1, Man United doing Man United because they shouldn't have been even in the game, but they got to 1-1 because Rashford scored. Then the Garnacho incident, as Matt alluded to, happened. Didn't happen. And we were all like, oh, thank God. Then the Declan Rice bit, it was pandemonium. And for that reason alone, and for me, it just stood in my head as, in that, data bank of memories that I have from this season. But there's so many. So
Tell
many
you
this
what,
season.
though, there's even more to add to that. I think as well. I think this, not to go too much on that game. By the way, just to say, we actually won a game at Old Trafford, which is
Yeah.
unbelievable. I can't believe that happened.
And
But
actually, in that game, the weird thing is that even though we won, most fans weren't happy. As in, most Arsenal fans weren't happy because we only won 1-0. And it really annoyed fans because because we were expected to batter them.
just not how
It's-
football works.
A
at
win
all.
is a
But,
win. A win is a win. A win is a win,
exactly,
especially at
but-
Old
Yeah.
Trafford.
Isn't it weird? But
Yeah,
isn't it
just
weird that
win and get off Twitter. That's what you got to do.
But isn't it the weirdest thing? This season. This season is the weirdest thing that because of what we've done and where we are, it's the expectation now that Arsenal should go to Old Trafford away. Home is different, away, and be the dominant team. That's the expectation, from the pundits, from us, etc. So it's that turning the tables effectively that we are now expected to be the dominant force in most games. Obviously Man City is again something different, but most games people were predicting Arsenal should stroll this, should be doing this, should be beating them, etc. So that's again another high point this season. We are a dominant team again. Which, if you were like me and you lived through the Invincible era, that's a welcome return to what we should be.
I think there were so many high points as well, which you've not even mentioned. Even within that United game, obviously the feeling when Garnacho scored that goal, I like, your heart just sinks. Like you're done. You think, for me, when a goal like that goes in, I didn't even think for a second it's offside. I'm thinking, done. United have beaten us at the Emirates. That gets disallowed. Then the jubilation for Rice to score, and then the jubilation for Jesus to score. The stadium to freeze as he sends Dallo and puts.
But everyone's saying the same thing.
on.
I think the thing is, everyone said the same thing about how they perceived that goal. When he dribbled in, when he cut inside, everyone went, "Go on." Then they sat.
Yeah.
Then he sat down. The goal, "Go on."
Yeah.
They went,
Yeah.
"Go on, go on." Everyone had that same thought. It's like this kind of united sync of what we're going to say. Go on, go on.
As well.
Yeah,
And then
the
stadium descends into silence, and then he just puts it in. It's just incredible game. Sorry, go on, Jan.
No. This is the thing that it's that high point and low point. We were down at the lowest point. Everyone, if that goal had stood, I think a lot of people would start to leave because a lot of Arsenal fans do have left. But because it wasn't, everyone went nuts and said, and then the belief was back, and then obviously, you're pushing on. So that's what it is. It's just that kind of memory of that kind of game and the emotional state that you get into. So, yeah, that was my high and the low point. I think most people will agree on most of the low points because there's very few.
I think I just want to quickly add as well two not high points, so to speak, but two pretty unique points in the season. Not unique. I'm not sure the exact word for this, but I think the run when we were very much struggling offensively, and then Havertz, who had been struggling, to then come up with that goal at Brentford, and then the run for us to effectively keep letting Luton back and back and back in the game, for us to think we'd lost that game or drop points, and then for Rice in the dying seconds, Arsenal fans quite literally on the pitch, and then just carnage. Yeah. And then as a final one, just a little small one, not really, moment of the season type, just a nice one. I think it was in the period of Porto as well. For us to play Newcastle and just go 4-0 up against them and then concede to Joe Willock. But, for us to just completely dominate that Newcastle side, who had a few players, I think they had pretty much a full squad at that stage, bar Pope, all back fit. And for obviously what happened at the Emirates last time round and what happened at St. James's Park in the uproar, for us to go play them quite a similar style to the team we struggled against, for us to beat them 4-1, I thought was a very, very nice one as well, not season. But yeah,
100%, Matt. And just like from one low point in the season to a high point, that win against Liverpool really kind of kick-started something. You had that. I'm just looking at the season now. You had the draw away at Anfield 1-1, and then West Ham at the Emirates losing 2-0. Then you had Fulham away losing 2-1, and then losing to Liverpool in the FA Cup. But then, from then to go on such a run and to absolutely blow some teams away. I'm saying, looking at here, Crystal Palace 5-0, beating Liverpool 3-1, West Ham 6-0, Burnley 5-0. You've got Newcastle 4-1, Sheffield United 6-0. You know, just it's just absolutely blew some teams away. And there was, you know, it's getting laughable at some points. There were some absolutely mammoth scorelines in the season. Chelsea 5-0. It's just, you know, it's something that's like, you know, again, it's not something that's always been there, but it's just such a nice luxury to have when you absolutely blow teams away like that. It was incredible for Arsenal this season, and I'm going to push you guys for your player of the season from Arsenal. I think for me personally, Declan Rice has been the player of the season for me. I'm sure you guys will have your opinions on it, but for me, just as personally as a fan, I'm such an appreciator of midfielders. I think Arsenal need a couple this summer. But I'm such an appreciator of midfielders, and especially good midfielders. And to be able to watch Declan Rice in this Arsenal team this season has been nothing short of an absolute joy and a pleasure as a football fan to be able to watch him and the way that he's run the midfield for Arsenal, whether he's in that kind of deeper 6 role, whether he's in a more advanced like 8 role. He's just been incredible. £100 million, and you know, worth every single penny. You know, there's so much scrutiny for a lot of English players when they go to another Premier League club. I know Jack Grealish, obviously £100 million. When other Premier League players tend to go for that kind of money that are English, it's naturally going to have a lot of scrutiny. But you cannot say anything other than Declan Rice has been an absolute monumental success for Arsenal this season, and he's just, you know, how old is he now? 25 years of age. He got 7 goals and 9 assists in the Premier League this season. Just the value for money and just the quality of player that Arsenal have got for the next however many years, if he can stay fit, if he can stay healthy, it's just absolutely incredible. He can be an all-time Arsenal great, 100%. And I believe he will. So, yeah, Declan Rice is my player of the season. Karis, have you got a player of the season, someone that sticks out to you that was, you know, above the rest this campaign?
Yeah, I do. And for me, I would still say it's Bukayo Saka this season. A lot of people, whether it's Arsenal fans or rival fans, and I say this quite a lot, I don't think our fans prop him up enough as they should. And a lot of it is due to the fact that he's victim to his own greatness. And if anything, if you look at the stat sheet, I know some people misuse stats, as we notoriously know, but he got 16 goals and 9 assists in the Premier League alone. That's his best tally. And I just feel like an attack. Without him, we don't really have that superstar there, and you just don't deep it that this is a player that just came right from our academy. He's been playing whether it's left mid, left back, left centre mid, all these areas, and we've just seen season upon season as games been getting better. And you know, like how so many footballers have that signature that makes them the player they are. Let's say, for example, Özil with the bounce, or Quaresma with the Trivela, or, you know, so many signature moves that players have. For example, when Saka gets the ball, you know he's going to try and isolate you 1v1, and he might go for that near post finish, or you know that he's got the half space cross on him. Like, I think what we've learned this season is that his actions are very repeatable, and they are of the ilk of someone who is not just a world-class player. For me, he's an elite player, 100%. And I think people are going to see it this summer. And God willing, he comes back without any injuries or anything like that, because honestly, superb player.
I'd love nothing more than Saka to go with England and, you know, be one of the reasons why they might win a European Championship or beat, you know, knock out one of the big teams. You know, like he was brilliant this season. You know, in my opinion, I think that I feel like maybe he was struggling with injuries towards the back end of the season, which hindered him, which I felt for him, because there was a lot of scrutiny on him. And, you know, I do feel for him, because he does come under a lot of scrutiny from rival fans just for being a brilliant player a lot of the time. And
Or just
I love
for limping, supposedly, which is weird.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
mad.
which I think is honestly, I don't even want to give it attention because he's just he's an incredible player, another incredible season. You know, we see these numbers: 16 goals, 9 assists. What was it about? I've just closed the tab with his stats on, but you know, those kind of numbers. Here we go: 16 goals, 9 assists, and then in the Champions League he got 4 and 4, so 20 and 14 throughout the season. You know, for someone that, how is he, 22 years old, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the country, you know, strutting his stuff on the big stage in the Champions League, scoring goals like that against Manuel Neuer, against Bayern Munich, you know, he's. I feel like some Arsenal fans have almost just like grown comfortable with, you know, don't quite, you know, like you say, give Saka the appreciation and the kind of promotion that he deserves, because I'm with you, Gareth. He's been incredible this season. Matt,
is,
Yam.
so,
Go on, Yam.
I think we all know this, but he's been carrying an injury the whole season as well. He's got an Achilles injury that is still restricting him from even going up a level, and that's the thing. Saka, you know, to Karas's point, he is a bit of a victim of his consistency. He is consistent. You know, everyone's talking about Cole Palmer has done this and this and this. Bukayo Saka's done it for a number of seasons, and so everyone's kind of got numb to him being, you know, delivering every week. But the fact is he's still got levels to go. He's being restricted by injury, and I still think being overplayed. I think he's still being relied upon too much by Mikel, and I think we can all see that, because unfortunately there is no one else who can step in. So his stats are unbelievable, but there's more to come from him. If he can get injury-free, and I hate to say this, but I don't think he will, because the Euros, Gareth Southgate will realise Bukayo actually is, you know, the main man, because he actually tracks back. Sorry, and I forgot about this point. Have you actually seen his overall his radar? His defensive numbers are unreal as well.
It looks like a fullback, honestly, at some points. It's ridiculous.
But that's the thing. Okay, look, I think Cole Palmer's had an exceptionally good season. He's a great player. He's done it over a season. But the fact is that if you're a modern manager like Mikel, looking at someone who gives it 100% in the attack and the defence, then Bukayo Saka is your unicorn, because he does it in both boxes. He's defensive and offensive. He presses. You know, again, we don't appreciate it enough. And I think that's the problem, as Karis said. He's been so good these last couple of years. And Mikel always knows it, because he will play him into the ground. It's unfortunate. There is no replacement for him. Even Martinelli, to be honest, at the end of the season when he was playing on that right wing, didn't look even a fraction of what he was. He looked better, but it did look unbalanced. So it's one of the big points in the transfer window. But since I'm talking, and I apologise for interrupting, I'll go with my player of the season, and I'll keep it consistent with what I've said in another podcast on the Latte Firm, is Martin Odegaard. I think, again, consistency, the driving force. He is the engine of Arsenal. Without him, and again, he's another big worry, because if he gets injured, there's been a talking point: is Fabio Vieira good enough? Who's his replacement? Who can step in for Martin Odegaard? I don't think there is anybody. I think Fabio Vieira was supposed to be, but I don't think, you know, maybe he'll get more game time this season, but it's very hard to drop Odegaard. He initiates the press. He is the way he was pressing through most of the season. I was wondering, is he actually going to break down in a game, because he's just a machine? He initiates every press. He is trying to make things happen. Some of his through balls this year were just superb, and he makes Arsenal tick. He's been, you know, again, when we talk about captain, a modern captain, he is it, because he does everything. He shows it on the pitch. He shows it in the emotion. He's the one who G's the crowd up. He is a model off the pitch. He's a model pro. He's not one of these players who is, you know, you'll see in the headlines for the wrong reasons. You see him for the right reasons. He's, you know, he does it in the right way. And he's got a massive tie to the club. You can feel it already. You know, he's bound to the club. And I think he's going to get better again. I think he's one of the few players, again, who is going to benefit from not being in the Euros, because obviously he's, you know, he'll be fit for the start of the season, and we need him because he's integral to everything we do.
De Bruyne's going Saudi, so it's his time to step up.
Yeah, he's talking about Saudi already, isn't he? You know, like, oh, Saudi money, you know, I need to go and all this.
Yeah.
He's feeling Odegaard but the thing is, I think he's even gone there. I think he's there now because he's there every game. I don't think he missed many, did he? I don't think he missed any games, actually. I think he was one of the few. Saliba, I know,
stat check
played
for
every
you.
game. But I think he missed one game. But De Bruyne is too injury prone. De Bruyne is fabulous. I think we can all acknowledge that. And Ødegaard will get there, but Ødegaard is more available. He's done it. He's got a better body of work this season than De Bruyne has. I think that's pretty obvious. So
I think the thing with Ødegaard for me is like his fitness is one of his like kind of like benefits. It's one of his strengths, just always being available. I'm just looking through the Premier League season. He missed the starting 11 in one game. He was on the bench for Sheffield United at home, apparently.
he was available.
I remember that now. Yeah.
But
Yeah, and he missed a couple. He missed Newcastle away, and he missed Burnley at home.
And we show it. You know, the fact is that it shows when we miss him because he runs everything. It's actually part of our imbalance as well. I think we can all acknowledge it. The right hand side is absolutely fabulous. You've got Ben White, Bukayo, and Ødegaard, but the left side has been so disjointed, and it's actually amazing that we have managed to retain a title race to the end of the season. But I think we can all acknowledge our team wasn't balanced, was it? Because the left-hand side was so badly disjointed. You had different left backs. You don't have a fixed central midfielder on the left-hand side. Then you've got Martinelli and Trossard, etc. So, if we can nail that down, and I don't know how that's going to happen. Is that a connector? Is that, someone else? Then what, can you think about the machine we will be? Because if we can give Martinelli the tools to, rediscover that form and provide a connector, that's the difference maker for me.
100%. And Matt, we've got to come to you for your verdict, your player of the season, please.
Going with Yem, but before I give my reasoning for Martin Ødegaard, I think what's important to know nowadays with this Arsenal side is we're not dealing with an Arsenal side which has one or two superstars and the rest are being not carried, so to speak, but one or two superstars and the rest are a bit below par. We're dealing with a team where you have arguably Saliba having a Van Dijk-like impact. Rice, people have said similar narratives about. Gabriel, who's been near enough flawless. Ben White, who's been stupidly consistent even through injury. Jorginho, who stepped in well. Kai Havertz, who's been phenomenal in the back end of the season. Martinelli, okay, a bit unfortunately had an off season, and obviously we spoke about the left-hand side dynamics, but you got Trossard with such limited time being such a clutch player. You've obviously got Bukayo Saka. And it's like, you look at all these names, and I've not even mentioned Martin Ødegaard. We have a team of players where it's not insulting to think X is better than Y or Y has had a better season than Z. It's more so why I don't like saying, like a single player, because I think we had such a top effort from everyone. So, and I think as well, recency bias is a big thing. If Saka had his November, October type of run in at the back end of the season, the narratives would potentially be different, because we can't forget that when we had a disjointed attack, when Martinelli was missing in a few games due to injury, when Eddie Nketiah was starting quite a bit, and Fabio Vieira was starting quite a bit, he was still a staple in the side, getting a brace in the North London derby, scoring so many important goals for us. And that was just, a time where we were very much struggling offensively. So, it would be so wrong not to just completely laud him and give him so much praise, particularly with the context of the injuries he's had at the back end of the season. And I think, as I said, you've got Saliba and Gabriel, who very much are right up there as well as player of the seasons, and Declan Rice is too, and you could say Ben White is too. So you've got 5 players for me there, or 6 players for me there, who all have very reputable shouts of being our player of the season for a side who's come 89 points and come second place. For me, Martin Ødegaard, I think, as I say, recency bias, of course, does help the narrative, because, of course, to start of the season, he wasn't too amazing. But for me, I more put that down to where he was being played very high up and Havertz being quite deep. I didn't think that was ever really going to, work for him. I think you look at Ødegaard and you don't look at him as a KDB type. I think the goals he got last season were incredible, and the numbers he still manages to get are brilliant. His ball striking abilities, the ozone, as you like to call it, where he strikes from near enough the D or the edge of the box, like the goal against United. But you look at Erdegaard as a deep player, and you watch him, and you're just in awe. And it's like Saka's another one of those players where you quite literally think, what does a manager want? Saka, Rice, Saliba, Gabriel, Erdegaard. But with Martin Erdegaard, I think, as Yem said, he's just a player to almost instigate everything. Obviously, the fan side of things, the pressing, him and Havertz were phenomenal with that. On the ball, just ludicrous. His creativity is just sensational for a player who is so good on the ball and so good in other aspects, but we also forget how good of a creative player he is. He's just so well rounded, and I think if you watch Arsenal in that back end, you really just feel like, or not back end, just more or less throughout the season, you look at Erdegaard as just that player who's just always instigating everything, and always a player where you're like, this is an 8 or 9 out of 10 player every single game without fail. And he's just so integral to us. And for me, he's our player of the season. But as I say, I think just because you think Erdegaard's better or had a better season, or Saka's had a better season, or Gabriel or Saliba, doesn't mean they've not all been absolutely superb.
100%, Matt. 100%. You've hit the nail on the head there. And I was going to say it even before you said it. William Saliba has to be given an honourable mention as far as player of the season is concerned. And there's been so many players, that have been regular in the team. Ben White, Gabriel. I mean, apart from that kind of weird moment at the start of the season when Gabriel was like on the bench for a few games, but Ben White, Gabriel. You've got to give a shout out to Jorginho. He came in and played a vital role in the season. I thought, games like Manchester City at home, him and Rice in midfield, I almost felt, comfortable and content with the two of them being there. I don't think it's a long-term thing that can work, but Jorginho's another player that's been brilliant. Trossard, what a season! Some incredibly clutch goals. Like he's a definition of clutch. Like some of the goals he scored this season, when he's in moments when you need someone to step up, he was able to provide that moment.
The thing is that Trossard is not a left winger. I don't think he's a very good left winger.
Where do you think he's best? Where do you think he's
inside
best,
forward? He's better as an inside forward, just slightly off the forward. But for me, what you want is look. He's never going to beat a player, all the time. He does it occasionally, but he hasn't got that burst of pace, etc. But what he is integral for is in the box. He has got that knack of hitting the shot with the right velocity, the right angle, etc. He's got that. He's got that sixth sense, that a striker has, or someone like if you look at it, Gabriel Jesus does not have it. It's like if you combine Gabriel Jesus and Trossard, you would have a world-class striker. That's the difference, and that's what That's what he is. Is in the box, he's lethal, and that's where you want him. But is he a left winger? No, for me, he isn't. I think you're accommodating him into the system, which you needed to, because you can't ignore his goals. That's the facts. But is he the long-term solution? No. I think we could all acknowledge we love Trossard. We love what he's done, but he is not the long-term left winger. Is it Martinelli? Again, he's got to prove it. And I hope that the Copa America is where he can actually get some game time and show us what he can do. And I think he's been a victim, unfortunately, of the imbalance. But Trossard definitely delivered, and I'm glad that if you look at, again, we go back to it, the Mykhailo Mudryk and the Trossard, you've got to look at it with, thank God we didn't do that, because it's the difference between, doing your homework and finding a player who is going to be experienced and deliver. And that's what he did. Even the season when he came in, he was assisting, he gave a record number of assists. So, again, a good shout out for Trossard. I think he's been a fantastic player, and I think there's very few actually who you can say have had a bad season. I think we can obviously acknowledge Zinchenko, unfortunately, has not been up to standard, the standard expected. Martinelli, as I said, for different reasons. I think, you look at those ones, but the number of people who've had good seasons versus bad is a testament to what Mikel has done. So you cannot be but happy with what we've got at the moment, and for the future, how next season. My only hope for next season is we do not experiment at the start of the season. There is no need for experimentation. Do not play Partey right back. Do not play Havertz in the midfield. Do what we did. Start Havertz up front. and play a Ben White traditional left. Ben White should be sunning it in Dubai for the whole pro season. Because what it did for him, I don't know what it does if it's the tan. You know, like if he's like Superman, when the sun hits him, he gets extra superpowers. But that's, you know, I want to see the pictures of Ben White on the beach in Dubai, you know, tanning it up. He's going to be, you know, browner than I am.
Dua Lipa playing in the background. He's
exactly. Exactly.
Playing some Uno, England on the phone.
Do you know what? But do you know what? I've loved this close season. How can you not fall in love with Ødegaard and Kai Havertz?
Yeah.
How can you? That's a very, you know,
going on holiday together. Yeah,
it's beautiful. Do you know what? It's got that vibe. It gives me the vibes. It's giving me, you know, you can't help but love Arsenal at the moment, and you know,
the only thing that could top it would be Matt and me going on holiday and putting a picture of the two of us up. No, I'm joking. Right.
Do you know, if you go on holiday, you just get a picture. We can do a photo. We can do a Photoshop. We can get some Photoshopping.
I thought we weren't releasing that one yet. What?
Oh yeah. Guys, we've been going for over an hour already. Do I really appreciate all of your time this evening, and big shout out to the 433 of you tuned in this evening. Thank you very much for being here, you know, wherever you've been this season. If you've been here this season, if you've only joined recently, you know, really appreciate your support and viewership of the channel. You know, first season at AFC Newsday, you know, this brand, you know, myself and Matt came up with at the start of the season. We've gone from strength to strength, I think it's fair to say, and you know, I've loved doing it. So we will, you know, I think we're going to talk a little bit about the summer and transfers, and then we'll probably call it a day there for this, you know, for tonight. Unfortunately, we won't have the chance to talk about Manchester City and their legal action at the Premier League, but you can read about that online if you want to. But there'll be another time and space for that, I'm sure. But yeah, shout out to all of you tuned in at the moment. Please do follow, please do subscribe if you can. You know, those kind of things do really, you know, really help us at this stage in what we're doing. So thank you to all of you for being there. We need to talk about the summer, what needs to happen with the squad. And just before we do that, I'm aware we didn't properly shout him out, but Kai Havertz as well. Brilliant season for Arsenal. What was it? 20 goals in the end. Yeah, absolutely excellent and really encouraging for next season. The squad next season. There's a lot of players that I think need to be cleared out. Arsenal have begun that process. Elneny and Cedric has left already. Looks like Lokonga will be on his way out. I'm not sure what's happening with Tavares. Kieran Tierney, there'll be a decision to be made over that. But I think the key ones for me, Reece Nelson, not involved really at all towards the back end of the season. Really quite sad to see, but it's where Arsenal are at now. Eddie Nketiah is 25 years old now. He needs to be playing first team football regularly, and he's not going to get that at Arsenal, especially if they're signing another striker this summer. Excuse me. So Eddie is another key decision that needs to be made. Just looking through the squad, Fabio Vieira is an interesting one. He didn't really get any minutes at all towards the back end of the season. Emil Smith-Rowe, I think, is maybe one of the highest profile ones. I mean, I put a tweet out about it the other day, and I think I'd be pretty gutted if they sold Emil Smith-Rowe. I still think he can play a role, and I mean, this is just my personal opinion, but I think Emil Smith-Rowe's one of the players that I personally followed in Arsenal's academy for the longest time. You know, I watched him make his debut for the club, and I watched him play at academy level as well. And he's a player I've got a lot of affection for, just based off of the way he plays football. And you know, I think Arteta appreciates that, but I think he could be used a lot more than he was last season. And if he isn't, you've almost got to make the decision of, look, Arsenal need to part ways with him. Thomas Partey is an interesting situation. He's got a year left on his contract. Arsenal need to sign, in my opinion, 2 midfielders this summer, regardless of what happens, because long-term Partey's not going to be there. Jorginho's not going to be there long-term, although he will be the next season. I don't know if Partey will leave this this summer. Just depends on the offers I think Arsenal get for him. Cedric's leaving already. That's been confirmed. Jakub Kiwior's an interesting one. I feel like Arsenal might cash in if there's an offer from somewhere. And Aaron Ramsdale, he's someone that I'd be very surprised if he doesn't leave this summer. I think he will leave, and I think he'll probably get a decent Premier League move because he does deserve it. He's still a very good keeper, despite the fact that happy with David Raya being in there. I've got a lot of time for Ramsdale and the role he played for Arsenal in the project. Those are, just looking through the squad there, those are my kind of main talking points, my main headlines from it. Karis, have you got any kind of key areas aside from what I've just mentioned? What's your kind of view on some of the surgery that needs to be done to the squad this summer?
So I thought it would be good as well for myself just to get it up on my screen, just look through the squad.
Go for it.
See who we've got. So if you look at the keepers, obviously we know that David Raya, we're going to sign him this summer, like regardless. We all know. Aaron Ramsdale, just a case of, his concentration levels aren't really there. Like at his best, he's a really good goalkeeper, but he's not as commanding as someone of his height should be. So I think it's best for everybody that he goes, and I'm pretty sure everybody agrees as well. There's been rumors of him going to Newcastle, as we all know. I think Eddie Howe really wants him, but the recruitment team want that Georgian keeper who has a long name. So I'm not going to try to pronounce that. So, yeah. Then we look at the defenders. Obviously, we know Cedric's gone. Zinchenko, been lots of rumors of him going to Bayern. So hopefully Kompany can do something because I want him gone, just to put it frankly. He just can't defend. I feel like he's been found out in terms of build up to like his tendencies and what he likes to do. And Timber offers something different, and we really missed Timber this season because he doesn't just like invert. He can also like really, really like take the ball up the pitch as well. Almost like it would have really helped that zone so well. Kivior as well. I remember he's been linked in recent days with AC Milan, but I don't see him leaving this summer. I think it's a case of, let's see if he gets much game time next summer. If not, I think the club will look to cash in. And it's a case of with players, it's like you give them the first season as like leeway, then the second one, then we kind of see what happens, I guess. Then if we look at midfield, that, good that Jorginho signs the extension because, he's a reliable squad player. He'll never complain whether he's like playing or not. Who else can we look at? Fabio Vieira, I think this season's going to be a big one for him. And the thing is, I'm actually quite a big fan of Fabio Vieira, not even just since him joining us. I think when he was at Porto, him and Vitinha were very, very good. We all know Vitinha from PSG. Very creative player. I remember that assist that Vieira gave to, was it Nketiah? I think he was at Fulham, and we thought, we won the game, and then we all know what happened after. But that's just a little glimpse of the creative ability that Fabio Vieira has. So I think my question is more, what can he give us out of possession? And I think that's going to be key this season. And if he can give us more out of possession, we'll actually get bang for our buck. Smith Rowe is an interesting one, Dan, because I probably have a bit of a different opinion to you on him.
Now, fair enough.
When he broke through, I was like really, really high on him. I was like, I love the energy he gives, his dribbling ability just to break lines. And I still think he has a bit of that. But over the years, we've seen him take a lot of knocks. Just in terms of in front of goal, like I don't think his confidence has been there. Some can attribute it to saying, oh, maybe he needs to play more. Some would say that maybe he should have been used more than he has been. But for me, the crux of the issue is that I actually see him more of an attacker rather than a less than a mid. Some will disagree with me, and I'm totally fine with that. But when you look at players like, let's say, players like him, players like, I'll give from other clubs, for example, players like Xavi Simons, Ebere Eze, those sorts of players. I think he's in that mold of, I see them as better players higher up rather than players that you'd put in the left centre mid role. And I think it speaks to the left-hand side dynamics that everybody wants Smith Rowe to try and solve the problem, where I think we need to be looking externally, if anything. And then, if it's up to me, like, of course there's a connection to Smith Rowe because of what he did when he first broke through Osaka, but I think this is our last chance to get big money for him, in my opinion.
Mm,
I will
sure.
try to sell him.
I mean, before you move on, Karis. I mean, let's go around to everyone to just on Smith Rowe, rather than everyone kind of making their way through the squad. I mean, let's kind of touch on it as you go through it.
Okay.
Matt, I mean, let's come to you first. Emil Smith Rowe is. I mean, to be honest, my gut feeling is he probably will be sold this summer, because if a club offers anything north of 30 million, I think it would be tough for Arsenal to not accept it. Is there a certain gut feeling you've got about Smith Rowe this summer?
I think it's what you just said. It'll come down to the money. Unfortunately, we are living in an age where there are restrictions, and Emil Smith Rowe is one of those who we call a pure profit player. He will generate whatever his transfer fee is. It's not offset or anything like that. And the fact is, he's 24 now. He's not a youngster. It's time for him to go and play. He's not getting game time. Arteta clearly does not trust him, because the Luton game, he was the man of the match, but then he disappeared after that. So look, Arteta may or may not be right on this one. But because of his record, you've got to trust what Arteta's done. And the unfortunate thing is, as much as we love our Highlanders, etc., they have to go and play football, and we need the cash to fund the progression of the squad. Look, I think we've got some funds, but we also are mindful that we just spent £100 million last season on one player, which is unprecedented for Arsenal. So there's clearly work to do. Plus, we haven't sold very well for a number of years. I think we had Balogun, we've had a few more, but it's not been great. Our numbers are pretty bad. So the facts are the facts. As much as we love Smith Rowe, the Nketiahs, etc., that's where the most money is going to be generated from, and it'll be. I'll have a bittersweet type of effect. I'll be happy for Emil if he can get to a club which will play him, and that's the big problem. He needs game time. He needs to start games now. It can't be. I struggle to see in an Aston Villa side, for example, if he's going to start. I think it's more of a case of a Brighton would be good for him, because I think Brighton are a good side who play good football, but they actually need someone like him. Fulham as well have done well this season. I think that's good. There's a good opportunity there. He needs to be the main man at a team. If you look at Ross Barkley,
Ipswich as well, actually.
Yeah, Ipswich. You know, again, the person who loves this, Emil, doesn't want to see him in a relegation battle. Which I'm not saying Ipswich may be in there, but it's likely they will be in that kind of area. You want him to be. He's a good player, and you feel he's a drop below. And I think the problem is that Arsenal have moved on. The facts are Arsenal's level has gone up, and there is a different requirement of player now. We look at Reece Nelson, we look at Nketiah. Sorry to diverge on this, Dan.
No. I know. I think it works best if we almost focused on the three of them. I think Smith Rowe, Nketiah, Reece Nelson are all in a very similar situation where they're at the age, like you said, Jim, 24, 25, when they just need to be playing games now. I mean, let's talk about all three of them.
And Arsenal have outgrown. You know, the level has changed. Look, it's unfortunate. This is how football works. Unfortunately, it is cutthroat. When we move up, if they can't match it, Eddie Nketiah is a perfect example. Unfortunately, and I think we can all acknowledge this, Eddie Nketiah is not a starter for Arsenal. He will never be that person who can lead the line at Arsenal. We have accepted that he has moments, but I don't think there's a single person who will say Eddie Nketiah is going to ever lead the line for a club like Arsenal. It's nothing wrong with it. It's just that unfortunately things have moved on, and Eddie has not been able to. As Charles Watts said, I was watching one of his excellent podcasts, and when you see, he said the team have moved on, and Eddie just can't keep up, and that's a very good analogy. Unfortunately, you know,
I saw that as well inside Arsenal.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good analogy. I think for all three of these players, I think the team have moved on, and it's just unfortunate. That is football. It's nothing bad. It's not that they're not good players. They are exceptional players. But the level has just risen where you have to do more now, and they need the game time to show that, or just to progress their careers. You don't want them to be, you know, lying in the doldrums because they thought, oh, Arsenal's very comfortable. I love it here. Arsenal is comfortable. If you're happy taking your money, Arsenal then will entertain that. It's a very safe environment, etc. But in the first team, it's cutthroat. Mikel has shown, if you're not doing it, you're out. Even Martinelli wasn't doing it. Trossard came in and stayed in the team. And that's the unfortunate thing. We all love ESR because ESR saved Mikel. He saved Mikel's job. Let's not understate it. He pretty much did. But the facts are, Mikel also is ruthless in that respect. He doesn't hang on the emotion of it. He knows, A, for his Emile Smith-Rowe's career, B, for the money that it generates, and C, unfortunately, can you trust it? Can we, let's all, straw poll, any one of you tell me, would you trust ESR to take us through the Champions League and the campaigns that we have to?
No.
I can't see it, unfortunately. I love the idea of it.
Put it this way. Oh, yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
No, go ahead, Karis.
Yeah. Put it this way. We've been talking throughout the season about, okay, Arsenal wants to be on this elite level. People have jokingly said stuff like, give us Bayern, give us Real Madrid. Now, if you look at, for example, Real Madrid's squad and you talk about who they're assembling, forget just Mbappe and all of that. You look at the players that are constituting their squad. They have players like Brahim Diaz, who I remember I was just randomly scrolling through his stats. Like, as a squad player, he's played like 25, 27 games. He's got, alone just in the league, 8 goals and 6 assists. So imagine a squad player is contributing that. Can you now imagine Smith Rowe producing that type of tally just in the league? I can't imagine that. And there's no shame to say that a player is not of an elite standard, because the elite standard that we're talking about, to be with the Man Cities, be with your Bayerns, and Bayern have not been good this season, but you get the point. To be with all these elite teams is a lot now. And we're now, other than the obvious ones, we're now seen as being back in that standard. So we need to actually act like we're there.
We're trying to raise the floor of the squad. I think everyone's heard this phrase. We're trying to raise the floor of the squad. And unfortunately, there are certain hard choices you have to make. And Emile is one of those. And, we're saying for the good of his career as well. It's for the good of Arsenal as well. Look, you have to be ruthless. We want to be where Man City are. And Man City are stacked with international talent. Emile deserves as well to go and try and make a go of his career. It's time to, it's like letting your child out into the world. We don't want to do it, but it has to be done. We'll be sad to see him in another place, but we'll know that at least he's had a good career. And, if you look at it, you've got Willock as well. Willock at least making something at Newcastle. He's one of their main players when he is fit. And you want Emile to be like that. But again, it's about him now wanting to make that step. Again, he's got to push it out and say, look, it's time for me to go. There's got to be the right offer as well. Look, we're talking about an English player, young, has got talent. We all know that. So I don't think we should just say, look, 20 million and he's yours. That's not right. I think we still have to hold our nerve. But again, all of these players, I think for me, all of them are in the same bracket of their careers just need to go elsewhere now, because it's not going to happen at Arsenal. I can't see it for any of them at all, unfortunately.
100%, yeah. And just because we're fairly pushed for time, I don't want to dwell too much on the outgoings. We kind of talked about that main core group. Reiss Nelson, Eddie Nketiah, Emile Smith-Rowe. There'll probably be people Arsenal will look to move on this summer, and yeah, like you said, it'll be for pure profit. But regarding incomings, Matthew, we'll come to you on incomings this summer. It's been pretty well documented that it looks like Arsenal are going to be backed again to spend a fair bit of money this summer. That's been the kind of noises from the media about Kroenkes and backing of Arsenal this summer transfer window. I think for me the main position. Oh, sorry, apology. The main position for me, I think, is midfield. I think that's a big thing for me that Arsenal need to strengthen. I think that it's... One second, I'm being spam called. Sorry, apologies. Midfield for me is a big position that Arsenal need to strengthen this summer. I think a couple of midfielders to play alongside Declan Rice. I like Declan Rice in the 6. I think that's where he's best personally. And I'd like to see a couple of number 8s to play, in that position. Maybe one that can make an impact straight away, and then one that can, for years to come, maybe take over and also provide an impact now. Midfield is a main thing that I want to be, see contributed this summer transfer window. Is there any other positions? I know striker is a big one that a lot of people have said about. Benjamin Sesko, Victor Osimhen have been linked. Matt, talk to me a little bit about where your head's at with who you want Arsenal to sign.
I think for me, I couldn't really be more relaxed about the transfer situation. Like for me last summer, it was Rice or nothing. Like I feel like there was quite a lot of stress about Rice. Whereas for me this summer, if we get Sesko or if we get Osimhen, I think the chances are, presuming what we're seeing is true, the chances are there's an 80% chance we end up with a Sesko or an Osimhen, and there's an 80% chance we end up with a Fofana or an Onana or someone of that ilk. So for me, I'm kind of just like, whoever Arteta has a preference for, I don't mind, because for me, it's all about profiles. And we're in a position where we can pretty much attract any footballer on the planet, barring your, of course, Haaland or anyone of that type of ilk, who's already at a club and not going to leave. But we can essentially attract anyone. And I think what we've got to be vigilant of is not leaving ourselves with too much to do in the transfer window. So I think if for example, we got rid of a Smith Rowe, I think we need to replace that profile because I don't think we have that profile. I think we get rid of Nketiah, which is most likely to be expected. Then we get that number 9. That seems relatively well documented. That will happen. Or we get another forward because, of course, we've got the likes of Gabriel Jesus and Leandro Trossard, Kai Havertz, etc., etc. But I think, we get a number 9. That probably seems quite likely. I think the weird thing for me with the current links is the more I was thinking about it, the more the Osimhen stuff makes more sense because Sesko, I think it kind of has to be done in the next week or so for it to be a reality because the Euros is on the 14th and his release clause expires, I believe, by the end of June. And Leipzig are not stupid. They know exactly what they're doing in the sense of Sesko probably has a standout Euros or a breakthrough Euros on top of the back end of the season he's had. And if that release clause is gone, they're not going to be charging the similar type of price. They will be charging 80, 90, 100 million, like what all the other top young strikers in the market are going for. So then I think the next week is almost telling whether we then go for Osimhen, but then we could potentially go down a different route and just prioritize the winger, which is why I'm very easy with what we do, because I think a midfielder's priority in terms of signing 1 or 2, but I think that's almost a guarantee to happen, presuming, someone like Thomas Partey does leave, because I think, as we've mentioned, how important the likes of Declan Rice are, it's even more important that not just that they're fit, but that we have a backup plan in the worst case scenario of anything going wrong. Because I think you look at the call we've had, Saliba played every minute. Declan Rice played a huge amount of minutes and was completely integral for us. But you don't want that core to go through a stage where it's like one of them gets an injury and our backup option is something makeshift or something which is not, of the level we need to be a 95-point team next season and go far in the Champions League, which is what we're looking to do. So for me, as a general perspective, I don't really have any strong feelings towards the transfer window. I kind of am just waiting for that first proper breakthrough. If it's Sesko, great. If it's Osimhen, great. If it's Fofana or Onana, I think the only thing I'd really like us to do is go for that dynamic left back. That's the only position or only part of the squad where I'm like, I don't 100% know if we will. Maybe we end up going with Jarell Hato of Ajax, who's only 17 years of age. We got linked with, I do not remember his name, apologies, but a 17-year-old Barca defender who's apparently very...
Mika Faye, I believe.
Cheers, perfect. Yeah. Of Barca, who's very highly rated. So I think that left-back position, I very much would like us to go for that different dynamic, as we've spoken about how the left-hand side's a bit dysfunctional. I'd love us to go for Xavi Simons if that was a potential possibility. I think he's a brilliant player and covers a lot of the needs of a dying winger market in the sense that he can play as that 8 role if we did choose to depart with Emil Smith Rowe. And then he can also cover, I believe he's played off the right a lot for PSV beforehand, and I presume for Leipzig too. So that would be a brilliant wildcard player. But is that a possibility? We'll have to see. So for me, it's very much a case of seeing how things unfold, knowing that we can't really go too wrong. I trust Arteta, to target the right profiles as we're doing, and just see how things unfold, and just go again next season, knowing we're even stronger.
Nice. Is there a certain position you feel most strongly about this summer?
There are a number of positions, but the one that I really wanted, because I felt last season we lacked it, was pace. We need pace in the front line, because I think the Bayern game showed me that we lack that X factor, that difference maker. Bayern beat us not through tactical brilliance or anything like that. They had players that made the difference. The Leroy Sané's, Comans, the Kanes, etc. We need that. We don't have that. We're very system based. But who is going to pull it out the bag? Who is going to take the game by a scruff of the neck in terms of, I'm going to beat this player, I'm going to do this, I've got the pace to do it. Martinelli's the only player I feel in our team who has searing pace. We lack that to destabilize teams. For me, I would love a Pedro Neto. I think Pedro Neto, if he could stay injury free, would be amazing. But again, durability is one thing that is going to be very important. But we do need pace in our front line, because I think that's what, in some games, the Villa game, for example, Villa played a very high line, but how do pace changes how defenders defend. They can sit back. A lot of them can sit back. But if you've got someone like, someone who's pacey and can break down a defense and can get you on the counter, it makes a difference. I mean, I totally agree with what everyone said. A striker. Matt said being relaxed. I think we are in a good position to be relaxed, because we've got the trust in Mikel and Edu that they will look at the right balance of the person. I don't think it's just position. It's also mentality. That's been the biggest thing now for a number of years. Do you fit the squad profile? Because the one thing that we hear from Arsenal now is that we're all pulling in the same direction now. It's not about egos. It's not about this player is bigger than the other. One thing about Osimhen is we don't know enough about his personality, his profile, etc. Mikel does all that work. So there is a certain level of trust for me in whoever he goes for. If it's Sesko, and obviously he's fit the profile. They went for Declan Rice early doors. So Arsenal will execute. So I slightly disagree with Matt in terms of, yes, the Euros are coming up. But if Arsenal feel this is the person we're going to pull the trigger on, then they will stump up whatever is needed to do it quickly, because they did that with Declan Rice. So the moment that they knew Declan Rice was there, bang, 105, get it done, we're out, and we're done. We'll blow it out of the water. So if they feel, look, Sesko is the one, it's a good value prospect, etc. I still feel they will say, we'll pull the trigger and we'll execute before the Euros to get it all done. But it's about the right profile for me in terms of mentality, positional fit. Midfield, I think the problem with midfield is there's a lot of options, and none of them are really amazing unless you pay 100 million or something like that, which is stupid in this market. I think it's overvalued in some positions. So again, it's about trusting Mikel, etc., to do the right thing. I like Fofana. I think he's a good value prospect, but maybe Mikel doesn't agree with me in that respect. But we have to trust that he knows, because it would have eaten him alive losing by 2 points. So I trust him enough in his motivation to say, look, we're going to get it. And when he says we're going to get it, I do believe that. I think we all bought into that. We believe it. So, relaxed, like Matt says. There's lots of names floating around, and I think we will just see what happens. But I think we will see something very quickly I think there will be something before the Euros. I don't know if it's a Sesko, but I think there will be some movement, because we've got our training camp starts in 3 weeks for the players who are not at the Euros. And Mikel typically likes to have players who are available to start training with Arsenal as soon as possible. So I think there will be movement. It's just, again, if it's a bidding war, then I don't think we'll get involved. If the player doesn't want to join us, thank you very much, goodbye, and good luck. I don't think he will go for that anymore. It's now players want to join. If you don't want to join us, we're not even going to bother.
I think quickly with Sesko is more so like, if as I say, it would need to be done in the next week or so, which I don't deny it can't happen. But I think if hypothetically Arsenal are looking at Sesko as a plan A, and then we'll know in the next week that that's getting done there and then. But I
Exactly.
think if that doesn't happen in the next week, then it tells us a lot that Sesko probably doesn't join us, because we don't want to enter a situation where we could pay a stupid money fee because he's had a brilliant Euros, and I'm
And
sure
that's
the
the thing.
club would be very
And that's the thing.
pitching.
The player needs to say to us, "I want to play for Arsenal." I think Mikel is very much in the space of, "I want to play for your club." That's what happened with Declan Rice. He turned down Man City, didn't he? And he said, "I want to play for Arsenal." He's been very clear on that, and then we executed really quickly. If Sesko says to us, I would assume, and again, I'm speculating, tomorrow, "I want to join Arsenal," we will get everything. We will push the boat out to get it all done. Now, again, Leipzig may throw up the banners and say, "Sorry, we need to do this," etc. We don't know. And again, Chelsea will throw money. Other clubs can throw money. But if the player has his heart set on it, then we will make it happen. But I agree with you, Matt. It is a very limited time. If it doesn't happen for the Euros, I don't think it will, because I think the prices then become slightly unpalatable, because you're talking about into the 80s, and then it doesn't become as an
unknown entity, to be honest, because, let's say he has an unbelievable Euros, which is probably quite likely that he has a standout Euros and continues that end of season form. I think Arsenal will very much know in their mind that maybe Sesko's a plan B and they just want to see the feasibility of it and then have to make that decision very quickly. Or if he's a plan A, then that's getting activated in the next few days. But time will tell.
Mm.
I'm going to add to this whole transfer business very quickly.
Go for it, Gareth.
One issue is that in terms of wingers, if Pedro Neto wasn't so injury prone, it would be fairly obvious, just like Declan Rice last summer. I think we'd be all out guns blazing. This is our winger. We need to get him no matter what. But because of his injury issues, it's sort of not made it as clear. Now, I think the best way to go about the transfer window really is killing two birds in one stone. I would go for Alphonso Davies as soon as possible if it was me. And the reason why I'd say that is because of, number one, a lot of people have been talking about, why not have an overlapping left back? But we also know that for Canada, Alphonso Davies has often played, in the attack basically, and has shown that he can produce from the attack as well. So why not kill two birds with one stone and go for him just for the time being, so that if we need to rest any players at all, then we can rest. We can rest, let's say, Saka or whoever's playing in the left wing. In terms of midfielders, there's one that I really like from Benfica, which you've all heard about, Jean Neige. But the issue is that, as Yamin was saying, most decent left centre mids, all their clubs are being like, "Oh, we want 100 million for them, pay their release clause, or we're not going to let them go." So the thing is that he'd be my dream signing, because he can play as a six fairly confidently, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be one of the players to really blow from the Euros.
But that's the problem, isn't it? Isn't that, Karis? The Euros represents this kind of melting pot that you get players who we know are good, are going to get even better. But then you get also the weird ones who you go, "Ooh, that's an interesting player."
I think the thing is as well for me is you then go into a situation like, I know it wasn't around a European tournament, but like Mykhailo Mudryk was maybe a £40 million player, and because of Chelsea's involvement in the deal and clearly some sort of a bidding war, they ended up buying for him near 100 million euros. Like, what was that, 80 something million pounds? It's just with the Euros, that's it has the same effect, doesn't it? You know what I mean? Like, it has the same effect.
But that's the thing. We have, as we said, myself and Matt said, there is a bit of trust we're going to have with Mikel because of the record. It's been pretty decent. I mean, there are still some issues. Vieira, for example, 40 million. I think there's a question mark still around that one. But on the whole, you take 65 million Havertz, 100 million Declan Rice has delivered instantly, that we're not even talking about the 100 million. So you're talking about, we're getting into that fact of, we're hoping that whoever we sign, Mikel has done the homework, Edu has done the homework. They don't tend to make knee-jerk signings anymore. It's now the case of, even Edu said it, we get dossiers. We've got thousands of pages of data analytics now. It's not this kind of, well, Mudryk looks good, we will take him. and he looks like he's got a bit of pace about it. He's got 20 on the Football Manager stats. We love a bit of that. It's not the older. So I think it, again, it's going to be measured because it is very data centric. We do use a lot of data now. We're not I think we've gone past that kind of old school feel. And the Mudryk deal showed that we were prepared to spend money. I think we were prepared to pay 100 million on the fee. We just weren't going to go to the wages he was asking, which is 200 million. So I think there is a level to which we will accept if we think the player is worth it. I think, if Osimhen was 80 million, but then he said, I want 200,000, I want to play every game and I will not play left wing, I will not do this, I will not do that. And I think Arteta would say, not really, because you need to be flexible. The fact is that he wants flexibility in his players, not flexibility in that I will play left wing for the rest of my career. Flexibility in that, in a pinch, will you do what I ask you to do? Will you go to war when I ask you to do it? Will you press? Will you do the work that's required? Because I think that's he called it the basics that we, the basics that we have to do. Those are the first things I would suspect he'd ask for. So if someone like an Osimhen says, no, not really, thank you very much, I want 300,000 and I just want to do that, he can go to Chelsea because that's what Chelsea want. That's what Chelsea want. They want to name him.
Can I add something in regards to the attacking dynamics that I think needs to be addressed too? Is that I feel like with Arsenal fans especially, is that when we get linked with one name, everyone's like, okay, if they come, they're the truth. This is it, it's perfect. This is going to be what it takes us to beat Man City. I think people need to realize that if anything, we're so close. Like if I could put like a pinch, let's say we're like a pinch away from just stealing that crown, basically. So if anything is about supplementing that squad, then how can we do it? In terms of, as Yemen said, we definitely do need pace in that front line because that pace is also part of having that X factor, as Gunner Blog brilliantly said in his piece for The Athletic, that we do need that X factor. But I think Nico Williams, for example, is one that I really like, but he seems very set on staying in Spain, as do a lot of players.
He also a hell of a lot of money on his wage.
There we go as well.
250. This is the other problem. They want extortionate wages now. 250. If you're a 250
crazy, mad. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we might have to play it smart and sort of like, again, like I said with Davies, another player that Matt also mentioned, and I think would be very smart, and I said it a lot, just to go for Xavi Simons for a season, because of PSG have been very adamant in saying that they only want to loan him, they're not going to let him go permanently. But I think he eventually will go permanently anyways.
If we got him on loan, he definitely wouldn't be staying at PSG the season after.
Oh no,
but the fact is with Xavi Simons, it's kind of similar to Emil Smith-Rowe. He needs to play because otherwise his talent is wasted. And the fact is that, to your point, Karis, we're a pinch away. But that first team, that left-hand side, the only position I see truly, and because I still think Martinelli is the solution to the left-hand side, is that left 8 role is the only place I can see where there's a long-term availability. Because I still think, and maybe it's my naivety, that Martinelli is still the one to play the left wing because he's got the attributes. It's just unlocking him. Timber for me is the left back. That pinch is, I just feel that connector. And I come back to it. I know he wasn't the most popular, but Granit Xhaka still, I think we all can appreciate that for him, it was in a bad side. It wasn't in the greatest side, but his left-sidedness actually gave us a good balance because we looked more balanced on the left-hand side. Now it's kind of gone to the other side and we've lost that kind of balance. So I think Xavi Simons is
actually, sorry. I don't know, left side connector. If he wouldn't go above the fee of 100 million, it's actually crazy how 100 million just gets thrown out there nowadays. I would go for Adam Wharton if there's. I know people have been hyping him quite a lot, but if Crystal Palace aren't going to be so audacious and be like, we want 100 million, I'd even pay 80 million for him. No joke. I think he's that good. Like,
I think I think the problem is that Wharton is good. He looks good. Again, I want to see them for another season. I think the problem is that, especially for English players, we big them up very quickly, and then they drop off quickly. Again, I want to see Cole Palmer play another season. I think Wharton has got good abilities, but give him a season. He needs a couple of seasons where he shows it. Declan Rice has shown it for 6 or 7 seasons, which is why Arsenal pulled the trigger and said, "That's the man. We'll take him." Because
I'm very reactionary. I'll be honest. For me, it's like I watched him. I'm like, he's got it. I just feel like
but we said that like for a couple of games we saw Francis Jefferson. So that's the fox in the box, and then we were like, "Oh my God, he's awful." England love England love to have this kind of, well, we brought him through, he's a 60-year-old, we brought him through and he's amazing and he's going to do this. Kobe Mainoo, again, another one who's had one season. You have to let them play properly at the level and then see how they. I think, again, Gareth Southgate taking some of these players to the Euros, great. He's taking players who've done well in the Premier League. But it's also risky in that Cole Palmer may not have a great tournament. Then what does it do? Does it change him? I need to see consistency. And that's what Bukayo Saka's done. That's the difference maker. Bukayo Saka's done it for 5 odd years. And that's why he is that good a player. So, yeah, I agree. Wharton is a good prospect. But the pricing that's being asked for, 80 million, 60 million, because, Crystal Palace don't sell cheap, I think is just indicative of this reactionary market and the inflation, etc. So I think Arsenal have to be more measured because, again, to your point, we are that close. It's fine margins now to how we step into the Premiership, but also as well, we do want to challenge in the cups. I want to win a cup. I don't want to just be the Premier League or nothing. We should be challenging for everything. So it's fine margins for me, and how we go about that is going to be the make or break for us because we can't spend 100 million on another player. That's not possible in 2 seasons. City can do it because obviously City can generate revenue, but we have to be more measured in how we do it. We may be able to spend 100 million again in a pinch, but I don't think we'll do it this season.
Yeah, definitely. Gents, I'm going to call it there. It's been brilliant to speak with you this evening. Matt is there. We've had a few technical issues this morning. We've been able to hear you, just you've been freezing a little bit, but
yeah,
it's been
I've
great.
noticed as well. But...
It's been great to speak with you all. And Karis, great to have you on for the first time I'm here, but great to have you back on again. So thank you so much for your time, your input. We'll definitely get you back on again this season. And yeah, just shout out to DJ who's tuned in. There's 546 of you watching live at the moment. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much for being here this season. I touched on it a bit earlier. It's just been, it's been great to get started this season. I think we'll take a bit of a break now over the summer. Got some holidays coming up. I'm sure Matt will have a holiday. You guys, I'm sure, hopefully you can get away, enjoy some time away with your families, your friends, and everyone watching. I hope you have a great summer too. We'll be back. I'm sure we'll do videos when Arsenal make signings. I'll look forward to seeing who Arsenal do sign. We'll probably do some pieces on each individual signing, unless Arsenal do some mad spending spree. We might have to wait a bit and do a few at a time, but we'll definitely be back to analyse who Arsenal sign. If there's any high profile departures, we'll be across it, but we'll take a bit of a break. Thank you so much for your input this season. It's been great to have you as like an honorary kind of like third member. You've come on plenty of time. You've been our most common reoccurring guest.
You need to redo this video. Right, I'm pulling my star thing here. Redo that title screen. I'm not even in it, and I've been on how many times I've been on this?
Don't worry. Over the summer, before we get
my good side as well. I can get you a few headshots. If you want to just paste it in, I can give you some.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to make a I'm going to make a note of the time that you just pulled those poses, and I'm going to
thumbnail. 3, 2, 1. Shock face.
Yeah, there you go. 148. There you go. I've made a note of when you did that, just so I can include that exact clip in it.
You got to make me look semi respectable.
Oh man, well, but regardless, Yam, thank you so much. It's been great to have you on this season. We'll look forward to next season when we get there. Matt, as ever, thank you very much, my friend. Any last minute reflections for yourself on the debut AFC Newsday season?
Yeah, it's been really good, really enjoyable to do it with you and have some lovely people on as today. And yeah, it's just been a pleasure to, of course, talk about the club we all love, and just reflect on different amazing moments, on what's really been a big high at the club. Really, obviously not quite winning the Premier League title, but go again next season. Really coming into an era of such a young squad and so much talent and quality and optimism, and it's such an exciting time to be an Arsenal fan. So pleasure to do it as always, and it's been a really good first season.
100%, mate, and we wish you the best of luck with your. I don't know if you've had your results back from your university. Have you had them back? Well, with
Indeed.
whatever it is,
Indeed.
you don't have to reveal it on stream today, but with your career and your future progressions, I wish you the best of luck with that, and we'll be back next season. So yeah, we'll take a break for a bit. We'll look forward to the summer transfer window when it kicks in. We'll do some content around signings, and then we'll be back before the season. But Karis, Matt, it's been a pleasure. Everyone, I hope you have a great summer. I hope you can enjoy the time off, the Euros. We're looking forward to it. But yeah, everyone take care. Good night, and we will catch you again very soon.